You've tuned into Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes. Your access to success strategies and more to help you move onward and upward with your life. Listen in each week as she interviews others who have really taken their essence to the next level and truly unpaused their life. Now here's your host, Dr. Callie Estes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Dr. Callie Estes, and I am founder of the Addictions Academy, the Addictions Coach, and Rehab Rescue. Welcome to Unpause Your Life. This is a great podcast where we showcase people who have done something extraordinary with their life. I welcome you, and I hope you enjoy all of our guests.
On my way, found a reason to wake up another day.
You are listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes, the Addictions Coach and the Addictions Academy. My guest today is Sean McBride, and I want to tell you a little bit about him. He is a leading authority in business planning and execution. He's an attorney licensed in 12 states. That's a lot of states. And DC and CPA licensed in 3 states. He brings the message of do business differently, which is trademarked, to his audiences and clients, teaching them that they can each find their own unique competitive advantages in business. His clients call on him for help in a variety of areas of business planning and execution. He is noted for his 2 books, Business Blunders, which is my favorite, which helps business leaders avoid common business mistakes, and It's About Time, which has become a guidebook to countless organizations that have implemented time management techniques to radically transform their team's use of time. He is also the host of the Future Done Right show and podcast, where he talks to tomorrow's leading business minds about their plans and insights for the future of business. Welcome, Sean. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Callie? Everything's good over here.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. I want to talk about business blunders and what stupid shit people do. Tell me from your experience what you have seen, what people do, and how do we combat that?
The big thing is people are entrepreneurial, which I love. I love entrepreneurial people. I love people that want to go out and get business and do business, right? I mean, that's part of the American dream, part of the Western dream. Like, I'll start a business, I'll make a bunch of money, and that's great. But what people fail to do is they don't do their homework, and they just think that everything's simple. And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes we have with people is people just think everything should be easy, right? I'll form a company, and, one of the big ones, as a business lawyer I see is people go out and they want to file an LLC, and they're like, oh, a lawyer's going to charge me, $1,000 or $1,500 to file my LLC paperwork. I see here I can file it with the state directly and I'll save that money. Well, what they don't realize is, there's some paperwork behind the scenes that should be done at the same time. That paperwork should say certain things in certain ways, and the state doesn't tell you that. They're like, you send us the $300 or $400 or whatever that particular state filing fee is. They'll file it. They don't care if it's right or wrong. And that sits there and it's fine, and they get started and they start running their company, and then, 2 or 3 years later, 5 years later, they want to sell their company or they get sued. And then suddenly this little $1,500 they saved before either cost them tens of thousands of dollars or more, just because they didn't stop and ask questions or think. So I think that's one of the biggest mistakes is people they don't think about the gravity of a lot of stuff. They just start jumping and doing without planning. And that underlies a lot of the business blunders I covered in that book, Business Blunders, you mentioned earlier.
So not thinking things through, jumping in, and then, of course, being cheap, not wanting to pay for services. Like, business entrepreneurship 101 is hiring people to do what you cannot do because that's what they do better. Right?
Right. That's part of it. Yeah. What's your core value added? What do you do really good? Spend your time doing that. Hire other people to do the things you don't do well. Right. We talked about that before when you and I have had conversations, and that just makes perfect business sense. But yeah, people don't do that.
I always tell people I don't clean my house, and they say, oh my God, why not? And I say, well, it takes me, and I have a condo, so it's not huge, but it takes me 4 or 5 hours because I'm scattered and stuff's everywhere, and then I get distracted. I'm looking at pictures when I should be dusting, and it's a mess. So it's easier for me to hire somebody and pay them the $60 or $100 an hour to come clean the house in 2 hours because they're good at it. And I can make more money doing what I do in that 2 hours.
That's definitely good leverage, and you have a couple things there. I mean, first you got to make sure that, you can indeed earn enough money to recoup that investment of time. And you got to have a belief in yourself, right? Like, I will go do something that will return more than $60 or $80 an hour. And, and particularly if you're in sales, that's a little tricky because every hour doesn't return you $60 or $80 if you're selling something. It's 1 hour returns you, $20,000 or $50,000, but 10 hours returns you zero. But that's just the reality of being in that profession. But you still got to take the big view, right? You got to step and know what your plan is, know what your value added is, and know really what you should be doing every day.
Correct. Now, what are some other mistakes you see entrepreneurs make?
The other one is, just not sitting down and getting good records. So this is boring stuff, right? We talk some about not doing the formation right, not doing the planning of the formation. The other big one is just not keeping records, right? So as entrepreneurs, somebody once told me an entrepreneur loves to do something once and never do it again. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs in that mindset, right? Yeah, you're laughing. I think it resonates with you. It certainly resonates with me, right? I don't want to do anything repetitive, right? If it's interesting, challenging, if it's a new puzzle, I'm interested, right? Custom for this client, custom for that client, that's cool, but tell me to do the same thing over and over again, day in and day out. I want to avoid that if I can, right? So that's part of being an entrepreneur. And one of the things that in a business you often have to do again and again is keep records, right? You need to document that you signed a new customer up. You can put their contract in the file. You need to document your sales. You got to record your receipts. And entrepreneurs just hate doing this stuff generally.
Yes. Solve it for me, Sean. Solve it, because I am the same way. I get a receipt and I stick it in a basket. And I say, I'll deal with this later. And then when it's time for my CPA, I hand him the basket. And he's like, really? Yeah. Really?
Well, the middle step for you probably is a bookkeeper, right? I mean, it's not for the entrepreneur to do stuff with the receipts. It's to have a system, So the middle step probably is have somebody come in once every 2 weeks or every month and take your basket and say, okay, I'm going to go type these into the computer. I'll ask you if I have any questions. And then when your accountant gets it, they're getting it in a more reasonable form, right? So the bookkeeper makes a little money, probably charges you less than what the accountant would, and you end up with better records. But record keeping, you need to have a system and a process there to move, from getting all these random records, getting all these random things to having, those final records where if you get audited by the IRS, if you have somebody slip and fall on your property and turn around and sue you, if you get an acquisition, a lot of people don't realize this. You want to build this company up. A lot of people have the dream of, I'm going to work at this company for 5, 10, 15 years. I'm going to create a really valuable company. And then I'm going to sell the company. And I'm going to go drink margaritas on the beach. Well, before you get to having margaritas on the beach, the acquirer is going to come in, and a good acquirer, one of the first things they're going to say is, give us all your records. And their team's going to start going through it. And they're going to say, do you have all the receipts? Did you have all the contracts you signed? Did you pay all your state income taxes? Did you pay all your state sales taxes? They're going to ask all these hard questions. So if you don't have your house in order, that beautiful exit that you're building to, it may not happen. And that's, it's not just they may reduce the price of the acquisition because you don't have your records in order. I've seen deals fail because the buyer gets freaked out, right? They're like, well, if they didn't pay their sales tax in Indiana and they didn't pay their sales tax in Wisconsin, did they not pay their sales tax in another state? Or their other records missing? I don't know. I'm out of this, and they go buy a different company. I've seen that happen.
Wow. So it's basically learning to set yourself up for success, not failure.
That's a big piece of this, right? Is, you're looking, you have to understand, you talked a lot about delegation when we did a recent recording for a different show. And that's important, and delegate to the right people. There are people out there that want to put those records in order. They want to make everything look neat and tidy. They want to put everything in a bow, right? There's people that have that personality set. Let them spend their time putting your records in a neat, tidy order and, showing everything how pretty it is and how neat it is. But yeah, what is your end game? If your end game is to sell your company, when I do planning, I tell people work backwards. Okay, so I want to sell my company. Well, what do I need to do to sell my company? I got to have a profitable company. I got to have good records. I have to have everything ready for the acquirer. Okay, so what do I need to be doing now, 5 or 10 years ahead of this event, so that when I get to the event 10 years from now, that I have a profitable company with good records that's ready for the acquirer to get, right? So you got to just connect those dots in your head. And that's a big mistake a lot of people make, is they focus on one or two pieces of the puzzle and they don't focus on the entire puzzle.
Well, I think as entrepreneurs, we're good at running our company. We're good at making things, creating things, making money, making the wheels turn. When it comes to the tedious, crap we're supposed to do on a daily basis, none of us want to do it because it's just boring and it doesn't generate income. Sitting here going through receipts doesn't generate income. It's, to me, wasted time. And the crazy lady that I have that comes in that does my books enjoys that. So she's sick. I don't know what's going on there, but
right. Let them do that, right? To you and me, that feels like wasted time. I mean, it's necessary in the business. Somebody's got to do it, because if you don't do it, you got the consequences of, what if there's an audit? What if there's a review by a government authority? What if there's a lawsuit, right? You got to have it done. Doesn't have to be done by you. So, you let somebody else do it that likes it. Just make sure it gets done. Your job as the leader of the business is make sure that all these critical functions get done. The blunder, as we're talking about what the big mistake is, the owner never stops and says, yeah, the receipts need to get entered. Yeah, we need to have good records. Yeah, we have to have all that done, because that becomes a surprise later when they go to sell that business.
Right. So what else do you see? What are some other issues that people in entrepreneurship do, or in general? I mean, you're an attorney, so what are you dealing with? What are you seeing?
A lot of my work, ownership, control of the business. Another big one out there that people miss, and it's just a lack of knowledge, is securities offerings. And this sounds like a big thing, scary, and people say, oh, I have a small business. I don't have to worry about anything related to securities law. Well, if you're selling ownership interest in your company, that is, what the securities regulators will call a security. So if you say, hey, Joe, you want to give me $100,000 for 10% of my company? And, this could be a very early stage company. You are doing a securities offering. And a lot of business owners don't realize that. And that's one of the ones where you can mess the paperwork up, not comply with the law, and you can really haunt you for a long time later. So, that's a big one that gets missed on a lot of people's radar is, hey, we, got to make sure that anytime we're dealing with ownership or control of the business, that we get the right people involved, we get the right paperwork done. That's, as a lawyer, the big thing I see a lot of times is people miss money or opportunity or cause problems because they don't do some of the basic compliance. So you have to, and again, it's not your job as the entrepreneur to do this. Just get somebody on your team that, asks the questions and calls the lawyer and says, hey, do we have to think about this? What issue should we be looking for next in our business? And a good lawyer will tell you, if you're going to bring owners in, you got to make sure you have all the right paperwork in order, and you got to maybe need state filings in some cases, and certainly need to have documentation that you comply with the law. And they can help you build that file. Again, it's not to overwhelm you. It's to help the business owners that are listening to this not have a surprise later, and to make sure they get to that sale of their company they want, to make sure that they don't end up in trouble. And there's two friends of mine, or at least acquaintances. I don't know if I call them friends. We don't talk all the time, but they went to federal prison because they worked at companies because they didn't do the paperwork right. They were part of a management team that brought in investors. The paperwork got messed up, and these two guys, they're both speakers now, ended up going to federal prison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Simply from not doing the paperwork right.
Because basically the Securities and Exchange Commission in both of those cases, and the state authorities have similar authorities. State authorities tend to do the smaller cases, federal tend to do the bigger, but that's not always the case. But the SEC came in both of those cases. They felt that the management team deceived the investors. The one guy, and both of them, and they both seem like nice guys. Both of these guys tell me that they didn't really know what was going on. They didn't think that they were defrauding anybody, but the companies weren't particularly careful with what they told the investors. There was some misleading information. The investors put their monies in. Of course, the company didn't perform as well as they thought, and both these people ended up in jail.
Wow.
So yeah, it can be very serious, if you do it wrong. Particularly if people lose money and they get pissed off and they call the government,
Of course, that's how the show American Greed got born, I believe, from people who do it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what advice would you give our listeners who are listening? We have a lot of budding entrepreneurs and a lot of people that, do work for themselves or managers of companies. How do they protect themselves and make sure they're doing the right thing where do they gather this information from? Like where can you go to learn? I don't want to say how to be an entrepreneur, but where can you go to learn these are the things I need to do correctly?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll plug my own book.
There you go.
Get a copy of Business Blunders. It's available on Amazon. You'll see, our Sean McBride Business Blunders. It's a blue cover, but I tell people that's a checklist. It's a 10-point checklist of what was the most common mistakes I saw. This is stuff that people just kept coming to my office. They wouldn't hire my law firm, and then they would come and there would be a problem, and we would go back and we'd say that, So, there's your 10-point checklist right there, is get a copy of Business Blunders. Also, get a good team around you. You talked about team. Get some outside advisors that really know the game, that are good, So a good accountant, a good lawyer, a good mentor, somebody that's built the business before you. These types of people, if you're sharing the information with them, they'll help issue spot, I love for small businesses, and I don't think this is used enough, is get like a board of directors. I mean, get some other business people that you talk to regularly about your business. And they don't even have to be an official board of directors. They don't have to have voting authority if it's a family business or whatever. But get 2 or 3 other business owners that you meet with regularly. You show them your financials. You tell them what you're doing in your business. You tell them what's happening. Because then you're collecting your experience, right? They may start seeing things that you aren't seeing. They may have ideas that you don't have. And those types of things may lead to you spotting these issues before they happen.
Awesome. That's great advice. And how can our listeners find you? Where are you located?
All right. So the best, McBrideAttorneys.com is my website for my law firm, so that you'll find blogs and articles and things like that. And if you go to PlanningDoneRight.com, that's my business strategy organization. There you'll find a lot more diverse information about how you build a business plan, what is your strategy, how do you execute your strategy. Also a lot of material there about what we see for the future of business and what you should be doing now to prepare for that. So check out McBrideAttorneys.com or PlanningDoneRight.com. Both of them will get you pointed with some great resources that'll help you.
You're probably going to get an influx of all of my students, because the question they always ask me is, what do I do now that I'm trained? How do I set up my LLC? Where do I get insurance? Who do I call? How do I build a website? What do I do?
Yeah. Would love to talk to them, and also LinkedIn, if you follow LinkedIn, you'll see some videos and articles there. But yeah, call me and, we can see what we can do to work together. But, you just want to get a good team around you. And that's the first step is, I think if you're sitting there and you're going into something you don't know, obviously working with you, getting some coaching and advice, the next step after that is start building a team around you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I know we're short and sweet, so you can reach out to Sean McBride. We'll put all of his contacts up for you if you have any questions, legal questions. I know a lot of you have legal questions you come to me with, and I'm not qualified to answer. I'll be sending them to you.
Fantastic. I'll be glad to chat with them. So I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. And this is Unpause Your Life. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show today. Head on over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and leave a comment or review of what you think. Or contact us at 1-800-706-0318. If you want to be on our show, feel free to email or call. And if you have a topic, feel free to email or call as well.
Thanks for listening to Unpause Your Life. For show notes and more, head on over to unpauseyourlife.com.
Big shout out to recoveryinnovators.com for help producing this show. Thank you, guys.
I took a walk down the long road where they said that I shouldn't go. On my way found a reason to wake up another day. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape in love with my pain. I may walked down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of flying. Now I'm so far from silent crowds.